Okay, we've got strips. Yeah, I got my set of bed strips from Dennis Carpenter arrived. So those are looking mighty nice. I also got end cap piece that goes on the end, right like that. Eventually, yeah. So I went with several options here. Polished stainless steel. You can also get the flat finish kind, but I ended up going with the cold rolled steel look, which is kind of a non-lustrous look that honestly I really like. You may ask why, and well, you may have guessed from this journey I've been on with this truck here for a couple and a half years now, is I do not like shiny trucks. I know it's very popular now. People like to get their trucks and hot rod them out. They lower them down to the ground. They chop the cab. They get it all shiny and perfect. They put in a Mustang front clip. They do the old LS swap. Hey, look, if that's your style, God bless. I'm not going to judge, but it's not mine. I like original trucks. I like them as unaltered as possible. So close to how they looked when they rolled off the assembly line and then just aged naturally. So I like patina. I don't mind bubbles and dings and wangs and scratches. It's a truck. It's supposed to look like that. So when I was thinking about the look of the bed, I did not want the incongruous look of super shiny metalwork along with this bed here with all of its scratches and dings and patina and rust and everything else. Just wouldn't be a good fit. So I went with the cold rolled steel, which I think gives it a nice natural look. So it'll look obviously restored the bed, but not gonna look not gonna thumb it. It's gonna work with the existing truck rather than fight it. Now looking at the end piece of the strips here, these are 6.5 feet long, and you can probably see how they go like that. So the edges on each side fits over each piece of wood, approximately like that. And there's supposed to be a gap of about maybe half an inch, something like that, between them. You can probably see as I just loose fitted, they've been moved around now, but they're gonna look something like that when they're done. Now some people additionally put a beveled edge into the sides of each piece of board so that this rests down in there and kind of keeps it from moving back and forth, and also so that it's more flush. It's obviously not going to be completely flush because as you can see that's got the raised parts. I'm not bothering with that. From what I've understood from most people, you don't really need to do that. Plus I wanted to get my own custom wood cut, and most of those kits that come like that with the beveled edge already on, they're generally using pine or red oak, which just isn't as durable. People in the know said get white oak quarter sawn, and so that's what we've got here, and so that's what we're going to do. So next step is to kind of start fitting in the wood where it's going to go, and then we need to start marking holes, and I'm guessing we're going to mostly do that from underneath the truck, probably like stick a crayon up there or something and figure out where we're going to drill our holes, and then we'll take it from there. The good news is I do think I found a full bolt kit from one of the places. I went ahead and ordered that, so hopefully they'll be here, and hopefully that things will work out. You can see here I have one of my 2 surviving carriage bolts that I didn't have to cut off with a cutting wheel, but you can see basically how they fit in there like that. The square part goes through down like that and keeps this from rotating through the square. And you probably saw when I had the wood off of here how I had those square carriage bolt holes all along the sides, including the one that I had to kind of replicate with a drill and a file. up there. One more thing that occurred to me is this front area here has continued to kind of puzzle me. And somebody left a comment on my last video saying that I had this piece here upside down, this bed runner. And of course, they said they weren't entirely sure, at least that's the way it was on their truck. And of course I dismissed it. Well, that can't be right. Well, as I was watching the video, and I do watch my own videos, just mainly to make sure that I haven't screwed anything up. As I was watching it, I realized this has to be upside down. And the reason this has to be upside down is because just as we have down here at this end, we're going to have holes that are going to go through the boards down at the end. We're going to have those carriage bolts up here at the front to brace those pieces there. Well, if the carriage bolt holes are down low, you would need a very long carriage bolt indeed to do that. So that's obviously got to be flipped around the other way so that those carriage bolts are flipping up. And I'm guessing they rest on top of this rusted out piece to kind of brace it a little bit. And as you can see, I don't have much brace left in mine. So let's give this a twist around and see what it's supposed to look like. All right, so that is now correct, I believe. So you see now we'll have the front carriage bolts here along the front, and those will go right through. And then additionally, we have the big frame bolt. I'm still believing that also goes through the wood, because otherwise it would sit and the wood would sit on top of it and be pushed up by it. So I think I've seen pictures both ways of people that have those big frame bolts. So 1, 2, 3 through each of the bed runners, also going through the wood in the middle as opposed to the ends. But I think that's right. So now, of course, now we have that issue of what had been the kinked carriage bolt hole on that side is now over there. Still hoping I can finagle that in there. May have to do a little more bending. Yeah. All right. Okay, I think I may have finally figured out a way to bend this piece here a little bit better by putting it over the lip here in the garage. And it's funny, by doing that, if you come around here, you can see quite clearly, nice and straight, nice and straight, nice and straight, nice and straight, and then whoop, just has that part that just whips up right there. Gosh knows how that happened, but if I can brace this other portion somehow, yeah, maybe I get a car and just drive up just close enough to put my tire on that to keep that from moving, then I can pound down that end. I can try and do it with my body weight, but I doubt that'll work. It'll probably just flip up. Well, a whole lot more pounding, which I did not bother to show. You can see I was starting to actually damage the lip of my garage concrete there, so I decided to call it. Didn't move it. I've still got a gap. It's probably maybe half as big as it was, and I don't know. I think we'll just have to get that in there and see if we can work it. If not, what I can do is just maybe cut out this hole on the edge here so that that bolt would not actually be seated through, but I think with, 7 or 8 other bolts going through, it'll be okay. Or I buy another one of these pieces here. I'm trying to do this as much as possible by keeping the original stuff, but if we get there, we get there. Well, holy gosh. You can see that, yep, the holes are lining up. And there too. It's a little dark in there, but you can see. So that weren't a pretty job, but all's well that lines up well. All right, we've got that thing sitting the way it's supposed to, and the bolt holes lining up, at least pretty close enough that I think I can make it work. Got this part here cleaned up, 2 coats of the rust converter on it. I think the last thing we have to do before we start actually putting wood in here and marking drill holes is this lip. It's clear that, you know, we had still over here, this plywood that was in there for gosh knows how many years, enough that, you know, look how dilapidated it was, probably 20-year-old plywood, sitting on top of that ledge, whatever you want to call it, and probably bend it down a bit, certainly in certain places. So like some areas I can see here, like I'm not even close. I'm 1/8 of an inch off. And then some other spots, like right here, with a little pounding with the rubber mallet, that would right in. I'm not going to do it now because I got that stuff on there drying. Other areas here that aren't even close. Basically under these 2 bed runners there, like you can see, that's going to be at least 1/8 of an inch off. That's probably, geez, that's way off. This one here is probably the worst. Geez, there's not even much of a gap in between there, maybe 1/4 of an inch, and I've got to get up to 5/8 inch of wood. You can probably see a little better looking at the opposite side from this angle. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to probably just grab some big pliers and just bend that up a little bit. Obviously being very careful to have 74-year-old metal that we don't want to crack, because as we know, we already had a bent area over there. It's funny, when I welded that in, I was like, I didn't do a very good job. It's kind of like going up a little bit, as you can see. Well, that's gonna end up working out okay, because it gives me more of a gap. Well, this is interesting. You know, I got these bend runner frame pads. They said that you need to have these. You can see how thick those dang things are. And I guess the idea is to prevent metal from rubbing on metal. I don't know, probably, you know, get rid of squeaks and jounces and firm it up a little bit. But guess what happens when I take this piece of wood without that in there? Slides right in. See that? That's me. I am vexed. Why? You know, when I looked at this lip from an angle, from the far end, it really didn't look like it was bent down to me. A little bit, probably in this corner over here, I can see it bent a little bit. Probably a couple spots over there, you can see a little bit of bendage, which I could certainly just, you know, bend that up real quick, but yeah, that's frustrating. That's real frustrating. So what do I do? Do I try and put this in without those rubber insulation pieces, the pads? What's the worst that could happen? Just squeaks a little bit? I don't know. I am vexed. Okay, and we're back a few days later. Been pondering this issue here of these bed frame pads just being too thick. I don't know if you can see that. Those are a good 1/4 inch thick, and it's hard rubber. I mean, it does not depress at all. It does not compress at all. So I basically had the option of, do I try and bend all these side things up? I'm loath to do it because it's 74-year-old metal. It's already, you know, had to be repaired in a few places, and I don't want to risk breaking it. Plus, it just doesn't seem like this should be the way it should go. So I think I've got what I'm hoping is going to be my solution here, which is I just got these rubber pads off of the internets. And as you can see, it's just just plain rubber, but it's only about, I think, a 1/16 of an inch thick, so much, much thinner. So I'm hoping using this will address the issue of not wanting to have metal rubbing on metal, but also leaving me enough of a gap that I can actually get the wood in there. So let's give it a try. Okay, got one of those pieces cut out, hole punched through it. Not very well, but enough. Okay. Get our board. And here we go. So I think this is what's going to work. It does, obviously, it's a little more snug. It didn't fit in there loosely, but just a very light push and pound, and in it goes. And so I think we're just going to use this this solution over the frame pads, which I guess I wasted my money on those. They weren't very much, but still, that's always a frustrating thing when you're working on old cars, is when you're buying parts and then the parts don't work. All right, those are all cut out and fit in place, so let's try to fit some wood. All right, took some pounding with the old rubber mallet, but honestly, it wasn't too bad. Things are looking really good. I think I've got this right to the edge here almost, and I think gap here. This might need to go a little bit more that way. And then here, yeah, I can see I can go probably another 1/4 of an inch over here. But yeah, looking good. All right, got ourselves a nice little gap there. And probably about as tight as that is going to get with this whole thing being, front piece being warbled and rotted. Well, it's definitely fighting me more on this side. Clear's fine here, here. This one's a little hanky with that welded repair spot, but it gets in it okay. Having trouble right here with this section. As you can see, I got the test board in there. Got it to clear. I'm really struggling to get the longboard in. As you can see, I chewed up some of it trying to pound it in. That portion would be covered by the lip, but still, I don't want to completely rip these things apart. You probably tell this area here of the lip is, probably the most corroded and most in danger of breaking, like that one there did. So I'm trying to be real gentle with it. But it does appear I need to bend it up at least a little bit. All right, well, I'm gonna leave it there. Obviously I'm gonna need some more finagling with this piece on the right to get it in there. But I'm tired, it's hot. I at least feel good about having a picture of how this is gonna go in. So I think as soon as my nuts and bolts arrive, I can start thinking about test fitting and drilling. One last thing. I saw this tip from somebody else's video as you're working with these different bores, you don't want to get them mixed up. So just went and marked them 1 and 8. I'll mark the others 2 through 7 when it is the appropriate time. Just that way so you know exactly where everything goes and you're not swapping out pieces. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave it here. Thanks for watching. Please, hit that old subscribe button. It sure does help us out. And leave a comment. I love getting comments, even if they're mildly insulting. I try to respond to every single comment that I get, so I do appreciate them. But things are moving along with the old truck, and gosh, I'm hoping here certainly by summer that we'll have this project done. Thanks.